And yeah, I think those regions are going to be really strong in TFT. I think Korea, it's only a matter of time. I mean, it's Korea, this is esports, come on. But Japan is the one that really excites me as well, because they generally haven't been as strong of a region in PC gaming esports specifically. Console, whole different story. Obviously, like a lot of the best fighting game players of all time come from Japan. But on the PC side of things, that hasn't been the case. I have heard, though, that TFT and Valorant are really big in Japan. So hopefully we will see a lot of great players come out of that region. And I think Shoemaker, thus far, is definitely a representative of that. Very cool to see.
Japan's coming for you guys. Shoemaker, ganbatte. Game is started. I'm going to go ahead and let you guys take it away.
So ready to get into this game. We're going to be tagging along with Calcifer at the very start of this. I do want to see him do well as a fellow Colombian. I would like to see maybe a more top performance here, as we are getting down to the wire. Even if you don't make it to the next day, it's still all fun to try and get that performance high. You can see on the side of your screen the points that are earned based on your placing, the top 4 point earners moving on to the finals. But Doa, we didn't get to hear from you the last game. What were your thoughts on that going into this one?
I mean, it was really neat seeing the Battlecast reroll. It was cool seeing Star Guardians perform really well. You know, but that's trade sector, right? That's just going to be a Galaxy where you're going to see those kind of comps do a little bit better. But that is fun. But I wanted to touch on the standings a little bit. We're definitely at the point where Calcifer and Obo basically need to just get 2 first places in a row if they want to even have a chance of getting out in top 4. So it's really unlikely that we're going to see them tomorrow. Hopefully they'll have better results in this game and next game. But we are starting to definitely see some real separation in these players between the top and the bottom.
And everybody's looking to represent their regions to the fullest, but as you said, kind of losing out on the opportunities to do so. It's also really cool just seeing everyone's approach to being a representative for their region. Obo, for instance, being someone that, based on the interviews after he qualified, and he was saying that he's never represented something before. That makes sense. He's never been someone to kind of go and represent the whole country.
Sure, yeah.
And while it puts a lot of pressure, it also adds a lot of motivation for all of the players here. Crowan, we're getting to start game number 4. You compete quite frequently. What does the pressure feel like when you're getting to the final moments to accumulate these points?
I mean, I think, you know, earlier on in my esports career and competing, getting to this point, it's definitely, you know, a lot of nerves, a lot of like, I want to make sure that I do well. You have expectations placed upon you, but, you know, after competing for a bit, you sort of get used to it. And, you know, some players definitely, you know, thrive in that environment, perform the best when it comes to these high pressure situations, these tournaments. All these players are here because they love competing. They are some of the best in the world, and the action has not disappointed from there. Calcifer needs a couple of first places to be able to have a chance, I think, to go on to day 2, but earning his way already here, that is definitely still possible.
So I wonder what he's going to do in this particular game, because he's got an interesting start here. He's got the, looks like gloves. I'm trying to see behind his little legend, but it's got tier, tier, rod, and cloak. So you can make some good stuff with that. Obviously, Ionic Spark jumps to mind as the best slammable item out of those 3 that you could make. But we'll see. He's kind of just going for whatever pairs he can find. What do you think, Crowan? Like, what would you be kind of like leaning towards in this situation?
Man, I mean, that's a lot of pairs right now. It's 4 pairs on the bench, a potential 5th pair with that Zaya in the shop, but it doesn't really lean towards one specific direction. Maybe hitting the couple of Vanguards pair would get you to have a pretty strong early game. In terms of items, if you're going to slam one at this point, it's probably only going to be Ionic Spark. There is always the potential of like, oh, Lucian, I could, you know, maybe go a Ludens to carry my early game, but Calcifer can't afford to play with that playstyle, has to go for that risky first place playstyle, and can't just be satisfied with a top 4 placement here.
I like that at least he's got the Caitlyn 2. The Caitlyn 2, as you can see, is going to guarantee, or more or less guarantee, that you're going to kill at least one champion on the other side each round. So because of that, the losses aren't going to be quite as bad. So you can just kind of take a loss streak while you find some of this stuff. Oh, this is interesting. He can pick up an Alawi too, but he also has an Ari in the shop as well, which is a pretty strong early game unit. But yeah, I think looks like Brawlers is going to be probably the most stable thing. Brawler Chrono, I like this. This is decent.
Yeah, it's definitely a solid start here. I think the Ari, as you were alluding to there, you know, having a tier, having a rod that could go into some Star Guardians. Star Guardians have been a comp that we've seen win today, and it could be what counts for needs to win another lobby. Choosing not to make that into you know, an Ari, putting it in, but chooses rather to make an Ionic Spark on that Alawi.
And it is nice that he has these 2-star with the Alawi and Kalen, like Gil said, to get some of those units down early. And then the Ionic Spark, if he does decide to go that Star Guardian direction, there is a Protector that would love to have that on her should he need to transition. But right now he's okay with taking these losses, just wanting to mitigate as much of the HP loss as possible.
Yeah, and you can see, too, they're not bad losses. Like, he's losing by, you know, that one he only lost by one champion. You know, it's never going to be, like, a full, complete, like, full-on, you got crushed kind of fight in most cases. So, yeah, going into the first carousel, bottom, but still 84 HP. That's, I wouldn't feel too bad if I was Calcifer right now.
I wouldn't feel
there's
too
another
bad.
tier for him, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got the blue buff now.
I think blue buff is super strong, and I think that's why Calcifer decided to keep that Ari with blue buff in mind. But there is the fact that Calcifer did not choose to sell up to 10 gold there, so is kind of playing a lot of the options there. Perhaps if Calcifer didn't get the tier there, would have gone another route, but choosing to keep those options open to play what he's most comfortable with here.
It's the kind of thing that feels a little in the moment. You think, oh, I could have sold, but not knowing what you were running into, a very good choice to make just to not risk getting rid of some of the stability you have established.
Yeah, it's tough to sell to when you've got all these pairs, right? Because if you get another Leona, sometimes Vanguards are an option. You know, you've got the Rakan in the shop, too. I feel like you've got to pick that one up. And I don't mind the swap to Vanguards here at all. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you're already loss streaking, so it's not like you're going to want to have the strongest board possible to make sure you start win streaking. Going on a 5 loss streak before the Terror Burster neutral round there is pretty good, but with that in mind, it does decide to level up to 5, so maybe just wants to make sure to have those Vanguards, Chronos in and make gold on top of that. Had to sell that Alawi in order to do that.
Crowan, what is your favorite way to utilize Vanguard as a synergy? Being that we saw from Volteriax at one point a pretty defensive lineup with both Mystic and Vanguard. We've seen him even do it so in rehearsal, but a lot of times here, it's so much an early game choice.
Yeah, I think actually, talking about Volteriax, I think what he did with Vanguards was absolutely beautiful. Playing that Cassiopeia carry to the point over swapping to Astro Snipers, the Teemo Jin, I think is just the best thing to do. And I kind of, I think best and my favorite things are often synonymous, so I'm really a fan of that transition there.
It's just so smooth, right? I mean, it's just... the way he sort of like flows from one game state to another has been really impressive to watch. And it's no surprise at all that he's in first place.
Yeah, and that's what people have praised Volteriax for, is the able to transition super well. So no surprise there that it's worked out for him.
It's like he sees the script and he follows it to a T each time.
There is no spoon for Volteriax. He just bends the game to his will. He's the one, maybe. Bobe, though, was the one in game number 3, so we'll see if he can kind of keep that going. He's got some good item options. GA has become a higher priority item that we've seen later, and he's definitely in a situation where he could think about playing Star Guardians, despite the early starts. He's got the Protectors, he's got the Ari. Ziggs 2 is going to be good for a little while, but he's like right on the edge of being able to make that transition. But if he did, it seems like he'd be playing it contested this game.
Which is so interesting considering that I think we've only really seen like one Star Guardian comp in the previous games to really go through to full fruition, and we might finally see some of that contest happen here, especially with some of the items really kind of encouraging them to do so. We saw a couple tiers picked up for 1. I would love to see that battle go down.
Yeah. I think there's the option of a few players right now to go Star Guardians with the items and units they have found. Getting early Aries is a good direction there. It's very interesting that Bobe has not chosen to commit any items on the board so far. Had, a bit of that win-loss there, so not going on a larger streak than 2, but thankfully for Bobe is at least on a 2. Didn't mention the Galaxy yet either, which is super dense, so having that extra unit in is going to allow players to get that compositional spike a bit earlier, but now slamming the GA, and I would assume Ionic, actually, but maybe not. we'll see what Bobe chooses to do here soon.
You would think so, yeah. Just moving that Force of Nature onto his bench to create a little bit more room on his item shelf, I guess you could call it. But yeah, it is interesting, huh?
Yeah, the half committal to deciding to bring the items now. You would think that if he was waiting for that long, he would be putting on more than one to ensure that it actually gets some good results, but...
Yeah, maybe just playing full greed. Just wants to build the only items that he wants to build right now and greeding out the best ones for later. I mean, in terms of standings, Bobe's in a pretty good spot. Only 4 points behind first place. Has 16. So Bobe just kind of needs to remain consistently top 4ing, getting a couple more games of solid placements to be able to advance to day 2.
Yep. One of the biggest losses in that approach seems to be the fact that he isn't really maintaining streaks and going a bit back and forth, but his HP is still staying stable, that resource being available.
Oh, dude.
But
I see.
There we go.
Yeah. It all makes sense now. Not choosing to slam the Ionic because that cloak makes a bloodthirster for the Shaco. We've seen Darkstar compositions earlier do very well, and Bobe, noticing that, is choosing to play one of his own here.
Yep. Okay, so he was checking to see where the carries were to see if he could kind of arrange that a little bit better. Ends up with the Shaco on the other side of the map, but that happens sometimes. And there's 8 people in the lobby. You can't avoid that. But it seems like it was the Jarvan 2 that he hit early on, and then the early Karma that kind of made him start thinking in this direction. It's a seems like a pretty strong comp at this point. That said, Nico is really, really good. Oh, but is Shaco better? Shaco still might be better.
I think Shaco's better right now.
He is.
But if Shaco jumps into a spot where Nico is going to CC him early, it's definitely going to be rough for the Shaco. Here it was still fine, but might be different in later fights. Another point, though, that I wanted to bring up was that it's just the intention of Bobe there, realizing the transitions and being able to execute on those like pretty well here. I think he's in a really good spot, and it's pretty good for his chances.
Very clearly thinking multiple steps ahead when he was saving those items on the bench. And Shaco, we have seen a few times, whether it be the Infiltrator or Darkstar variant, both popular within the extremely flexible meta we have here. But Doa, you're saying that he might have some difficulty if Nico locks him down, but the fact that multiple people are going Star Guardian, do you think that might fare well in his ability to try and take out some of this magic damage that's in the backline?
Possibly. I mean, you're still going to be vulnerable to Nico no matter, what board she's on. And you really only need a Nico 2 to make that comp work right now. It's not like the old Star Guardians where you kind of needed the Cinder 3 and the Nico 3. So it does support more people playing it in the lobby than it used to. So it's going to be tricky either way. But you can see, like, this Shaco 1 is super strong. But when he becomes Shaco 2, that's when it's really going to pop off. Like, Shaco 2 would have dominated that board. So... that's what he's waiting for. Like, as soon as he hits that Shaco 2, it could be a win streak situation as long as he doesn't get caught by that CC.
Oh, yeah. It makes for a very interesting tracking of the population of the board, too, because Shaco loves to say, oh, yeah, I'm just going to 1v5 or whatever it may be there in those final moments. So once he is that 2-star, should be an even more favorable result. But we'll see what ends up getting grabbed by the carousel, as all members are still pretty healthy, 50 HP being the lowest HP for Achin in the bottom, 91 at the top for Volterix.
Yeah, man, even Shaco 1 was almost able to take that round out. It was super close. I think the Shaco got a random crit on the Caitlyn there, so was able to take out on that Caitlyn before the snipe came through. But definitely, as you're referencing, and that's another Shaco right there, so it's only one away. Bobe, 82 HP, still in a good spot here. I think what Bobe really needs to do right now to solidify, is doing this right now, is scouting very intentionally, seeing the Astro Snipers. There's a Teemo and a Jhin already in someone's comp. That's pretty early. But knows who he's going to play against, because you cannot face the last 4 people that you have played against. So knows specifically, if he's keeping track, which all these players certainly do, knows which 3 players he can fight, positions the Shaco accordingly. Might get a little bit unlucky sometimes because it is a little bit random, but still in a decent spot here is the Shaco. Not on the Lucian, but still gonna be taking out some units.
I love seeing all the scouting, though. You paid attention to that earlier, and that's something that, like, all set long, people would be like, oh, infiltrators aren't that strong, but then you'd watch them and they're not scouting at all. Like, you need to be so aggressive in terms of scouting lobbies all game long, not just in the late game, if you really want to make a comp like this work. And it's really a credit to Bobe that he's being that intense with his scouting. It's paying off too. There's a lot of rounds that he won that he probably wouldn't have won if he hadn't scouted properly.
Oh, definitely.
Positioning is often one of the biggest difference makers between these top players that are on the competitive level and then those that are kind of in that mid position, not really being able to break through what they want to climb on ladder. For any TFT players that might be watching, that's definitely an area that can always be improved. I know a lot of these players even create guides specifically for positioning, and we have already seen that being the reasoning for a difference between first place and second place today when the points matter.
Yeah, look at this here. The Shaco jumping onto the Jin and the Teemo. Very intentionally placed there. It's just huge for Bobe.
Karma Shield kept Shaco safe. GA didn't get popped. And that's it's a scary board for the Teemo player to go up against. Like, we must reiterate, this is Shaco 1 doing all of this stuff. He's so strong with the combination of GA and any item that heals him.
Yeah.
We've gotten to that point too where because of the items, even with Shaco 1, he's still doing fine. But 3 rounds ago, the one that we were talking about that was so close, the thing I love about those moments is for the player, it might not be that fun to lose very, very narrowly when you could have won. But from a spectator view, I love those because then you can just imagine what difference in the power spike that'll happen as soon as that 2-star is achieved. So any kind of consistency right now and being able to hold through the mid game is really just that extra frosting on top.
Right. Let's see what items he gets out of the neutrals here. Oh, okay. All right. Interesting. So you'd be kind of hoping for another bow at this point, I guess, for RFC for Shaco. But interesting stuff as far as what the rest of the board can deal with. There's Shaco 2. All right.
So we've been waiting for, and now it's achieved. Yeah. I have seen people even go something like a Frozen Heart on the Shaco with Bobe's, very specific intentional playstyle of not wanting to slam items. I don't think that we'll see that right now, but it is an option if perhaps in Rapid Fire Cannon isn't able to be found with the next Carousel and the Raptors. Going up against Achin, though, with these BMs, like seeing another BM composition is very feast or famine playstyle, could be one to take out the Shaco. Not right now, though, as the Shaco just absolutely demolishes it.
So he puts the Ionic Spark on the Nocturne that jumps into the backline as he wins another round easily. And so that's going to be able to deliver that MR shred, magic resistance shred, and also a little bit of extra damage whenever something casts in the backline. So it's a nice adaptation, and it's something he's going to sell later, so he can always reposition that item at some point in the game. I think right now, if you're Bobe, what you have to start thinking about is, I need to kind of start thinking about my Jin items, probably. What are those going to be? What am I going to try to build towards? He's got Rage Blade right now, but ideally maybe you could do something like a Runin's Hurricane with that bow later. RFC on Shaco's probably a little bit better, but you probably do want to start thinking about Jin items at this point too, don't you?
And I think that the level of control that Bobe has been showing is what has been key to allowing him to get to these places too. We talked about the fact that he decided not to slam items, only using a GA, for instance, to keep himself somewhat close in these fights.
Victor.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
So already lots of items on the other side.
See, that's what we were talking about earlier.
It's a Victor 1, but those items are pretty good.
Yeah, the Victor items are solid, and the Nico being able to CC that Shaco, both of them combined, was not very good for Bobe there.
It's strong even at the level 1 with the itemization. Crowan, do you believe that that's enough to be able to kind of carry through these moments? But as far as the late game, do you have to get that 2-star on Victor for him to really be powerful?
Oh yeah, definitely do at some point. It's still going to be a strong composition right now, but need to find that upgrade, probably hopefully sooner rather than later, but still do require that.
The little Battlecast package that he's got in right now is kind of an interesting little mid-game adaptation where obviously the Battlecast helps itself, but he's also able to get Infiltrator from the Nocturne and able to get Mystic from the Cassiopeia. So it's little things like that are going to help you be more stable in the mid-game, where it's not something you would normally see, but it works out in this case, and he's kind of played towards what the shop has given him. This Jace is really strong, but this Shaco should be able to carry. Oh, look at that dodge. Shaco's just like, nah, I don't feel like getting hit by that. GA, you can see why GA is so important on Shaco.
when you have an ability that you really, really need to get casted off to be able to burst people down, keeping yourself with that second life to ensure that you do so is going to be very effective. And that was against Lev D, who is one of the players that really desperately needs to be able to get top 4 in both of these games to have a chance of moving on tomorrow. But it only knocked him from the top of the lobby down to the 3rd spot, so nothing to worry about too much just yet.
He's doing okay. He's at like 14 points right now, so he's still got a fairly good chance of top 4ing if he has 2 decent games here going into this one. But he's definitely on the bubble. He, Bobe, and Hazti are kind of the 3 that are you know, on the edge of not top 4ing here if they have a rough game 4 and 5. Volterius and Shoemaker pretty well situated overall, but we could see things shake up quite a bit yet.
Yeah, there's still some of these boards that we haven't even fully checked in with. I think during the scouting saw that there was a 3-item Aurelia somewhere that could be growing into something. Looks like some potential cybernetic comps and even a mech.
That's a really
there wasn't as much
Aurelia.
mech last time.
Yeah.
Double
okay,
Deathblade Lucian here.
Yeah, I was gonna say. He's so fragile though.
Yeah.
That's the thing. He barely got out. It's a lot of AD,
Yeah.
but you got to be alive to use it.
We were praising the Shaco mechanics a couple of rounds ago, but the Lucian mechanics are kind of the opposite there, kind of dashing into everything, getting AoE down and taken out there. Volterix losing that. There is a Jinx in, but I think that based off of Volterix's bench here, is going to want to commit to those cybernetics. Cybers is a very strong composition, scales well into the late game. You do kind of need that Echo 2 to win a lobby, but Volterix, with the position that he's in, doesn't really need to win lobbies. Just I like the fact that he slammed double Deathblade, because he just needs to be consistently, you know, top 4 or so to be able to move on. So very intentional play making decisions there to change up the play style, and it's working out very, very well, I think.
It's the kind of pivot that you want to see at this point when your whole goal is to get top 4 today, not necessarily to have to go in as the #1 person into the next day. Cybernetics being such a strong comp, and a couple people have some Vanguard splashed in, might rely on those a bit more to offset some of that damage during this point in the game. We do see that Victor that we talked about before, oh so strong.
Yeah, but this board from Achen is right on the verge of getting extremely powerful. He did lose this because Obo managed to find a really early Victor 2. Wait, he found that Victor 2 and he has 2 Nikos available? That's actually insane. But talking about Achen again for a second, the items he has on his Yi, if he finds a Master Yi 3, could definitely carry him way up from where he is right now. But he's already down to 21 HP, so he's got to find that stuff really fast.
Yeah, I was going to say down to 21 HP, but still needs 5 more Master Yis. Are you going to find that with about 70 gold to roll down? Like, probably not. Do you choose to, with that in mind, level up instead? Honestly, I think that's the more consistent option, but it doesn't feel good.
No.
Yeah.
So he's on the bubble too. He's one of the players that are on the verge of not making day number 2. He's got 13 points so far today. A good game would be going a long way in terms of getting him to tomorrow. But a bad game in game number 4 here might kind of rule him out effectively, if not mathematically. So he needs to have a pretty good one right now.
Deciding to roll down here. These rolls are good, actually. Finding a couple Yasuos, finding a Master Yi, another Yasuo in the shop right now. Choose to put the Darius in for a couple of Mana Reavers. That's pretty solid. Yeah.
Just have to roll here.
Yeah, he's committed.
I mean, one Yasuo away, but Yasuo has no items, though.
Yeah.
Choose to stop here.
Yeah, you can take... I think that's fine, because you can take maybe like 1 or 2 more round losses. But, you know, if you take another loss, then you probably just have to go all in.
Oh, yeah. Next loss, for sure. Achen rolls down to 0. I would be very surprised if he doesn't. Does easily win this round versus Volterio, but Volterio has not power spiked yet, so really fortunate for Achen to run into this matchup now.
Right. As long as he doesn't run into a lot of crowd control, he should be okay.
Yeah.
He's not too worried when going against that Lucian in the back that'll eventually just get popped by his comp. It's so hard at this point when you're making those decisions. Like, do I have enough to roll down? Should I level up when you are in that bubble? And it could be the difference between getting you through or not. But in that, he was able to get some good pickups. Like you said, the Mono Reaver getting online as well. Just kind of finding what he can work with until he gets these full. There's the level 2 on the Aurelia, 3-star on the Yasuo. So it's 1 item on him now, and he's still waiting on that Master Yi.
One more Yi, come on.
That feels so bad getting this close and not hitting it.
He's got 1 more life, so
yeah,
you know, we'll see what happens. And he's 1 away from a Shen 3. So honestly, this comp could become extremely strong, extremely fast.
Thing is that Achin has basically no gold left, though. Won't be able to even get to 10 next round, so these next few rolls will have to be exactly what he needs in order to stabilize here.
And you can see just all the insane healing from the Shaco with the Bloodthirster. Oh. GA gets popped. He's got a chance. Yeah, wow. The Yasuo 3 had the ult, or had the ability loaded up just in time. That was really close.
It was
making a knock onto the #1 in the lobby, Bobe, who's been performing well today.
I'm worried for Achin with these rolls. Like, every roll is so intense here. It doesn't hit yet, though.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're 1 away if you don't have the actual funds to make the upgrades.
Yeah.
Well, he's all in now. You know, it's do or die until he either finds the Yi or he just gets knocked out.
Karoan, you just mentioned potentially making a sale. What would you do in this situation? Would you try for the desperation to get that last one, sell anything that's kind of a fringe unit, or just stay calm and hope that as it builds back up, you don't suffer losses?
So as of right now with Achin, you can stay pretty calm. You're still on 21 HP. You won't lose in 1 hit. If you do lose on a round, though, then you would need to make sure that you're rolling to go all in. I don't even dislike the fact that he's rolling down to 0 here, because going to 1 hit is still scary, because if you run into a bad matchup, that's just going to be the game, even after you spike. There's a force of nature here on this carousel, but quickly picked up there by Calcifer. 9 HP for Calcifer there, so good for him there.
So Achin has managed to live long enough to be back up to 6 in the lobby right now. That could easily change, but what's he going to go for? Oh, okay, Celestial. All right. Celestial. Yeah, because you'll have that with Zion now, so that'll give his team a little bit more sustain.
There's a couple of options there, actually, with these spatula items. There's Rebel to get a bit more of that shielding and damage for the Master Yi. There's Infiltrator to buff your Zed. And there's Celestial to get that Celestial buff. Extra healing isn't really going to be that impactful for Master Yi, as he has his own self-healing. But for the rest of the squad, that would be super good. And there it is. Achin hits the E3. Ooh, can breathe a sigh of relief probably right now.
Yeah, I mean, now you're just worried about what every 6-blade Master Yi carry team is worried about, which is a lot of crowd control. So sometimes you can have struggles versus a mech board. Sometimes you can have struggles versus a Teemo board if you don't get on the Teemo right away. But now, you're right. He can kind of breathe a little bit of a sigh. Oh no, he messed up his rebels though. Oh, that it's not huge, but it is one of those little things that can end up being a big thing once in a while.
It's impactful. Not sure it'll matter here though. No, it doesn't. Master E3, really. We see the power.
Yep, well, that's what we're talking about. As soon as E3 gets online, it's lights out in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
A lot of those bottom lobby members are getting hit right now too. So Calcifer, Hodgdy, and Shoemaker all the way down on single HP. We are singing praises to Shoemaker. I wonder what comps he was going with that haven't quite been working out for him.
Yeah, I do wonder what he was playing this game. Because this would be pretty devastating for him if he takes a bottom spot, because that really opens up the top 4 then, because he right now is sitting in 2nd at 18 points. So if he doesn't continue those good results, suddenly that top 4 is like way more open than it was.
Yeah, it seems like he's playing Cybernetics here. Not seeing him here, but seeing Oboe instead. Still the 2 Nikos on the bench though, so isn't even pressured to use those yet.
He wants that Victor 3, He's just he's going for it. He needs the first places. That's the thing. Like it's not wrong. Wow, and he does win.
Yeah, wow.
That's CC.
crazy good for Obo, unfortunate for Achin there, but exactly as you just said, needs to play greedy to get that Victor 3 and to get a first place here. So I love that intentional playstyle difference. Shoemaker unfortunately falls in 8th and Calcifer in 7th. So that's going to shake things up for game number 5 for sure.
Yeah, Calcifer, you know, probably, I haven't done the math, but I think he's probably out now, despite what his result would be in the 5th game, based on his earlier results. Like I said, he could still be mathematically in it, but it's unlikely from my, you know, just mental calculations, which are never good. I was an art major. But Shoemaker out, yeah, does free up the top 4 a lot.
And never do math on a broadcast.
I do it all the time.
We tell ourselves we won't, but we continue to do so, hungry for that information. There are a few that are risky. I believe that Hadshe is also in a risky situation as well in terms of standings and moving on to the next day. Lev D, I'm sure very happy to see himself in the top of the lobby as one of the ones in the bubble.
Yeah. Yeah, Hatse has like an okay amount of points, but a bad finish would make him really, really need a top finish for game number 5, I think, to have a shot. Finds a Riven too, but not able to build it, doesn't have the gold. 1 short. Where's that Zephyr going to go? Alright, does he hit the Aurelia yet? Oh, not quite.
No.
Bummer.
Aurelia hits the Yi. Yi heals through it, though. This Yi is just being quite insane right now.
Hey,
Achin holds on. Voltario. Almost. Is it enough to take him out? Actually, it is.
Oh.
Wow.
Oh, that's big. So wait, that means that our first and second players overall go out 8th and 6th respectively. So now the top 4 is even more open than it was before. So game 5 is going to be really important. It's going to be close as far as who gets through.
Very much a chance to shake things up. We talked about Obo, even if he does well here, may still be positioned to not make it. He would have to really kind of hulk out for these two. But the fact that the top performers thus far have been marked down, it severely increases your chances as long as you can keep your head in the game.
Obo hit it. He hit the Victor 3. Definitely want to check that out soon. But for now, we see Achin versus Lev D. Lev D being one of those players that could break into the top 4. Playing Astro Snipers, but the Yi just kind of still runs all over them.
I mean, you've been in this situation yourself before, Crowan, right? Where like I've seen you in tournaments be down to like sub 15 HP, hit that E3 and come back and win games. So I know you know how this ends up.
I do. It's definitely possible to win games from here. I did it for a couple tournaments in a row, so I know that while Achin is feeling good about this E3, he needs to be on top of this positioning because one bad fight and it can all just be for nothing here. Has made it into the top 4, so it's pretty solid. But Achin, you know, has 13 points coming into this round. Needs to get at least top 2, if not a first, to be feeling good about going into game number 5.
You know, one thing I wanted to mention real quick with Achin is that he's actually running Mana Reaver with the Darius, which is an adaptation that you don't see as often as I think you should. Because Mana Reaver can be so impactful in terms of preventing those crowd control abilities from coming in and stopping your Yi, you know?
Oh, the Shaco.
Oh. Yeah, that's Shaco, dude. Shaco 2.
Oh, no. Achin,
he's out.
I'd love D out in the 4th.
Oh.
3rd, actually. Wow. All right.
Yeah.
Hey, a top 3 is great considering how that game went, but is it enough points to keep him in it? That's the question. He was on the bubble.
But he and Lev D were both in the bubble, and they got exactly 3rd and 4th. So they're, of course, keeping things extremely tight between them. And Achin able to last out a decent amount of time, even in that second to last round, taking down the Teemo comp. That was one of the biggest threats. Tried to position the Shroud to shut down the carries, but it's a bit of a guessing game, and unfortunately wasn't able to do so. But now we are in the top 2.
So you know what's funny, actually, is that Bobe is actually hurt a little bit by Achin dropping out because that puts a ton of 3-cost units back into the pool, so it makes him less likely to hit his Shaco 3. So, funny enough, Achin dropping actually hurts Obo a little bit.
No, I needed you to stay in it, bro.
Yeah, hurts him as far as finding that Shaco 3 anyway.
Yeah, Shaco 3 is probably what you need against a Victor 3, because this Victor 3 is cleaning house right now. Bobe can only really take 1 more loss. Yeah, he was exactly at 40, so took 20 damage. If that's going to be the same exact loss there, Bobe would be out next round theoretically, so needs to find something right now.
but
So,
no funds to
I'm-
do so.
You know what? Like, Obe's had a rough day, but I love this particular game from him because he knew he needed to like get a top 1 or 2, right? And he did everything he could. He played for first in like the most hardcore way, and just played off what he found, and a Victor 3 might just do it. I'm impressed. I'm impressed by Obo here.
Yeah.
He's been impressing a lot of people since the qualifier, having a similar kind of pulling through in the end.
Wow.
Someone that wasn't as known in the scene. We'll see how it comes through.
He did come back from behind in a big way to win the OCNA qualifiers. So who knows? Oh no, there goes the Victor 3.
Oh.
Shaco 2, the god. And that means that